Hey everyone! Welcome to today's video. I'm going to walk you through my annual planning process of my bullet journal, so I hope that you enjoy the video and let's go ahead and jump right in. So just a little backstory on my current bullet journaling process for those of you who are new here. I've had pretty much the same layout for the past 2 years. 2025 will be my 3rd year in which I follow this layout. This essentially consists of only using one journal for the span of a year, particularly a B5 dotted journal. I start off with a few yearly spreads in the beginning of the journal, then I move right into January with a couple of monthly spreads, followed by the weekly spreads. I continue this with all of the months, which will then leave me with, I believe, about 3 pages in the end to do a year in review spread. So that's the overall layout of my bullet journal setup in a nutshell, but because I'm a visual person and I like having something to reference, I set up one of these pages in what I like to call my dumb journal, which is just a separate B5 journal I use aside from my bullet journal as a diary, swatch book, or any random thought that doesn't need to be in my bullet journal gets housed in this one. So every year I draw out this overview that accounts for every single page in my new bullet journal. So once each spread has been drawn out, I'll go in and label each of them with what type of spread they'll be, such as a year in Polaroids, a monthly spread, a weekly spread, etc. Now, I know some of you may be thinking that this is a little excessive and time-consuming, which is totally fair. I can completely understand that. This is just a way to help me prepare for my new bullet journal since I want to be able to fit everything in this one journal and also make sure that every page has a purpose. In the past, as some of you may already know just from a couple of my other videos on my channel here, I used to use 2 A5 Leuchtturm 1917 journals each year for the first 3 years of bullet journaling. Each of those journals had about 250 pages. Over time, I realized I didn't like having that many pages to fill up in the span of only 6 months. I know I don't and didn't need to fill any journal up in a specific amount of time, but I found that I much prefer having my entire year in one journal rather than have it be split up between 2. As I branched out and tried other notebooks like from Archer & Olive, I realized how much I prefer the 160 GSM paper and ultimately made the switch to Archer & Olive for my bullet journal. But that also meant that I only had 160 pages to work with for the entire year. So that's where this process was born. In the beginning, when I was about to switch to a single B5 journal for the entire year, I went through a long process of deciding what was essential and what could be removed from my bullet journaling system. Previously, since I had what felt like to be an abundance of extra pages in my bullet journal, I would often fill those pages with what I called decorative spreads. I would either make collages using an assortment of scrapbook paper, or I'd write out a lyric from a song and decorate the spread around that. Needless to say, it was just very random and most of the time completely unnecessary. I felt like I was obligated to fill these pages in with random stuff, even if I didn't feel like it. I also eventually got tired of having to flip through so many pages just to reach the end of the month, as well as having to flip through several pages every single day to fill in all of these different trackers on different pages. After a few years of that routine, I decided to reevaluate my process and basically start from scratch. It was a basic monthly spread with no themes, very minimal decorations, just a calendar, notes box, and my weekly spreads. I continued with my daily doodles throughout this time as well, since that's one of my favorite things in my bullet journaling routine. Over the course of that year, I slowly started to bring back a few trackers along with some decorations and art, but most of those were kept on just one spread. Eventually, it brought me to this point where I incorporate most of the art and decorations into my monthly covers and monthly doodle spread, but keep the weekly spreads more minimal, which also includes my trackers. So before the new year begins, I like to set up this overview for my entire bullet journal and for the entire year so I can make sure all of the essentials are covered. Moving on to each spread, I will be making a few changes in 2025, which I'll run through with you now. First off, I'm going to be removing the monthly challenge box on my monthly spread, and I'll enlarge the brain dump box to fill the entire space at the bottom. I wasn't really finding much value from the monthly challenges, so I've decided to just completely get rid of it come the new year. I guess the only other thing that I'm considering changing would be to possibly switch the cover to be on the right side and have the calendar on the left. It's a very small change, but I figured it'll allow me to reference the calendar easier throughout the month since it'll be on the left-hand side, but I haven't fully made up my mind about it yet, so I guess we will see. In terms of the monthly doodle spread, I plan to keep this exactly the same. I don't plan on changing this at all. The doodle boxes, favorites, and memories boxes have all been working very well for me, so this will remain as is. Now here's the biggest change I'm planning on doing for 2025, and it has to do with my weekly spreads. I'm thinking about doing a Dutch door situation since my current sidebars are basically the same every week with my calendar, habits, weight, and mood trackers on the left and my expense trackers on the right. I'm thinking I'll adjust them to account for the entire month rather than just 1 week, and then have my daily boxes be on the actual Dutch doors themselves. So right now, I'm just featuring a mock-up of how a month would look in my dump journal, which is my B5 notebook therapy journal. I'm actually planning on combining my habits and mood trackers into one. And as for my weight tracking, I think I might just weigh myself every 15th of the month and either the first or last day of each month and note it on my monthly calendar rather than tracking it every day like how I have been. I'm also planning to just completely get rid of the credit card tracker and expand my personal and joint expense trackers. So that way, I'm hoping I'll be able to fit the entire month in these boxes now, compared to before when they would only cover 1 week at a time. I guess my main concern with this Dutch door route is how the journal will look at the end of the year, since most of the pages will be cut to make the Dutch doors. I'm hoping it doesn't look too hollowed out and sad, but I guess I'll never know until I try. But yeah, that's basically my plan for 2025. I'll be sure to post an actual setup video closer to the new year so that you can see the actual process in my new bullet journal. Let me know if you've started planning for your 2025 journal. What are some of your favorite spreads that you'll continue into the new year? And what are some spreads that you'll be ditching? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.